Welcome everyone. We're talking to you from Hyvolution Chile in Santiago. We're pleased to be with Mikaa Blugeon-Mered.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you to be here. So you're a professor at Sciences Po, and you're also a specialist in geopolitics question about the North and South Poles.
Yeah.
If I'm right.
Yeah.
If I may ask you, where did your interest in the geopolitics in North and South Pole come from?
It comes from a long time. Basically, when you care about the environment and you want to get to understand what are the sources of the climate change we are living in, well, basically the source is quite easy to understand. It's the Arctic and the Antarctic. So here we are talking from Chile. I'm adjunct lecturer at Sciences Po. I used to lecture on polar affairs, now only on hydrogen. And the reason why the two are connected is because definitely once you understand that what's happening in the polar regions has a global impact, and when you understand that the fact that the polar regions are the primary victims of climate change, and on the other hand that hydrogen, if it's green, if it's decarbonated, can be one good part of the solution to actually save, at least to some extent, the polar ice caps, the Arctic and Antarctic in general, then basically you can see very easily how the two topics are connected, polar affairs and hydrogen affairs.
Yeah, thank you. The southern Chile region of Magallanes, as you know, I imagine, is less than 1,000 kilometers away from the Antarctic, if I'm correct?
Right. That's right.
So, do you think Chile will play an important role in the Antarctica region in the future?
Well, definitely the southern cone of the Antarctic, of the American continent, is absolutely key for whatever kind of dynamic in the Antarctic. Historically speaking, the first settlers in Antarctica, for science reasons most of the time, were basically coming or went to Antarctica leveraging capacities to basically cold ports in the southern cone. Montevideo, Buenos Aires, but more importantly, Ushuaia in Argentina, and of course, Punta Arenas in Chile. So basically these two places, Ushuaia and Punta Arenas, they are the gateways to the Antarctic. They were so in the late 19th century, they were so in the 20th century, and they still are today in the 21st century. Just to give you an idea, 98% of tourists that go to Antarctica today actually either go through Ushuaia or Punta Arenas. Some also will go through Port Stanley in the British Islas Malvinas, or rather I should say the British...
We're in South America, so...
in the British, of course, Falkland Islands, which Argentina call Islas Malvinas and still, of course, claims. So basically, these are the gateways, the main gateways to the Antarctic. So when we're here in Chile, and we talk about climate change, and we talk about new energies and alternative energies and so on, the Antarctic question is never too far away. Yeah. And especially, you were talking about the Magallanes region, which is basically where Punta Arenas is located. Basically, in this region, the Magallanes region, that is definitely one of the two primary regions that the Chilean government and industries are betting on to actually kickstart a global, world scale hydrogen economy. So based on that, once again, the connection is not just like, it's not just identity, it's not just geopolitics here. There's a real deep rooted connection between what's happening in the southern cone in Magallanes and what is likely to happen in the future in the Antarctic Peninsula, just less than 1,000 kilometers away.
Yeah, thank you. Chile is also part of Mercosur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of the European Union of South America, to be brief.
Well, it's an economic union.
It's an economic union. As such, do you expect substantial partnership between those countries, namely Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, and Bolivia? Or do you think Chile will partner with other countries that are more involved in hydrogen, like Colombia and you mentioned yesterday Trinidad and Tobago?
So what is it going to be? So basically Chile, more importantly, maybe than some relationships with the Mercosur, when it comes to hydrogen or alternative energies, what Chile is looking at, of course, is much beyond Latin America and the South American continent in particular. What they're looking at is definitely, first of all, Europe as an off-taker for hydrogen, of course, but also for batteries. Because, of course, for those who are not familiar, Chile, of course, has a lot of copper, a lot of lithium. So basically, Chile is well positioned in both value chains, the hydrogen one and the battery one. Voila, that's it. So, of course, they're looking at Europe. They're also looking at Japan because they have a specific relationship with Japan, especially on all things related to marine living resources and basically sea products. So basically, what Chile is doing is trying to leverage sea products to actually deepen that relationship with Japan and turn it into a energy exporting market. Then there's also South Korea. South Korea and Chile have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to develop a bilateral relationship on hydrogen specifically, and more importantly on all kinds of alternative energy value chains. So they're looking much beyond the South American continent. But with that said, of course, there's a lot of potential to produce alternative energies and the minerals that are associated with alternative energies all across Latin America. But there's competition as well. Of course, there's these partnerships that Chile has with many countries on the continent, but there's a fierce competition, of course, with Argentinian industries, but also, and that is maybe a bit less known, competition that is emerging, especially in the field of green hydrogen, with Paraguay, with Uruguay in a certain extent, and of course, with Brazil, Peru, and also Colombia, who try to position themselves as future major world-class green hydrogen exporters. So basically, there's a lot of competition, maybe more in the field of hydrogen than there is cooperation. And that is definitely what is now driving Chile's hydrogen industry forward. And you mentioned Mercosur. There's another alliance to which Chile is a member of, and it's also very important, is the Pacific Alliance. Chile is a member of this said Pacific Alliance, and basically it's an alliance of liberal-oriented countries. It connects, of course, with all the way to the US, and the idea here is also to look at North America as a potential offtake market, either for batteries or for hydrogen or for ammonia and other kind of hydrogen derivatives. So basically right now in Latin America, Chile is one of the countries at the forefront of this hydrogen business, but at the same time, there's plenty of competition, and maybe more competition than there is cooperation.
Interesting. To conclude, maybe, yesterday you took part in a debate on the H2 value chain between Europe and Chile. It would be an understatement to say that your presentation was well received.
Thank you so much.
Without going into too much detail, though, you were very blunt regarding Chile's potential.
Yeah.
But you emphasized the fact that the country will have to work hard and to go big, if I may borrow your words.
Go big or go home. Indeed.
Because the market is going to be highly competitive. And you also define Chile's competitors. And they aren't the countries we might expect when we think about renewable energies producers.
Yeah.
So do you have a word to say about those?
Sure. So basically you want me to summarize, like to sum up my presentation in less than 2 minutes. Okay, I'll try to do that. I'm up for the challenge.
I forgot to record it yesterday.
I see. Okay, so I'm up for the challenge. So the idea is simple. Here in Chile, we've heard since 2017 that Chile has a lot of potential in hydrogen. And of course, hydrogen derivatives and so on. So great, Chile has a lot of potential, it's true. In the Magallanes region, especially leveraging wind power possibilities, and then in the Antofagasta region, which is basically the Atacama Desert, to leveraging solar PV and solar thermal possibilities as well to produce hydrogen, and many others. But the point here is that we've heard that a lot since 2017. In many studies in the literature from McKinsey, academics, and many others, Chile is often portrayed as the country with the lowest LCOH, so lowest levelized cost of hydrogen in the world. Some people talk about 90 cents of dollars per kilogram of hydrogen. Some talk about $1. Some talk about 1.2. Anyway, Chile is seen as a very competitive country in green hydrogen. The problem is, we're now in 2023, so we're like 6 years more or less after the first attempts from Europeans, namely Germans and Dutch diplomats, to actually develop these relationships from an industrial and geopolitical or geoeconomic point of view with Chile. And what we see is that 6 years later, Chile is still not ready to be this super gigantic, world-class hydrogen massive exporter. And there's plenty of reasons why. In the presentation, we've mentioned 5 bottlenecks. We've mentioned as well 6, how can I put this? Political or socio-political aspects that are not even taken into account in the existing hydrogen roadmap and hydrogen strategy from the Chilean government, but that are going to be that are needed to be addressed if Chile really wants to actually meet its raw potential in hydrogen production and export in particular. So basically, at this point in the world, there's many other countries that are, of course, you know it all too well in H2 today, there's a lot of countries who are betting on hydrogen. These are countries that will compete with Chile. And right now, what is absolutely key to understand is that in Chile, it seems like not so much the industry, but the administration doesn't take these countries into consideration enough. And by these countries, I mean countries who are developing low carbon hydrogen. Some people call it blue hydrogen, based on fossil fuels with carbon capture and sequestration, that are actually very powerful, that have a lot of money, that have a lot of know-how, and that are very attractive for European, American, or even Northeast Asian talents to develop these industries. So right now, Chile has a tendency to see as its competitors in hydrogen other countries in green hydrogen and green hydrogen alone, like Morocco or Namibia. That is a mistake. Chile also has a tendency to look at competitors just regionally. Argentina, Brazil, we've named a few already. That is also a mistake, because basically there's not a lot of offtake that's going to happen in the world on which Chile can bet to kickstart a global world-scale hydrogen industry. There's Europe, there's South Korea, there's Japan, and there's not much more beyond that. And these regions and countries are already well targeted and already investing quite a lot in these other countries that compete with Chile, but that Chile, for the moment, hasn't recognized that much as competitors. So that's basically the message I was trying to share here at Hyvolution Chile. And that is also the reason why Hyvolution from Paris to Chile, well, there's a reason why the first international Hyvolution event happened here. Because here, we need to share blunt messages to basically go beyond either the two easy narratives, but more importantly, go beyond the mere potential and deliver on that potential. Because at the end of the day, if Chile doesn't deliver on the potential, well, basically it's the whole world that's going to lose from Chile not meeting its potential vis-a-vis climate change and energy transition.
Just to conclude, Chile can produce up to 70 times what it needs.
In terms of hydrogen potential?
Hydrogen, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that is just at the current state of knowledge vis-a-vis Chile's potential. Maybe there's even more. For example, Chile is situated in a place where natural hydrogen, geologic hydrogen from the underground could definitely be spotted. We just don't know that yet. And if that happens, then a whole new market opens up, of course, for Chile to decarbonize itself, to contribute to the decarbonization of the whole American continent, or maybe beyond. But that's the thing. We need more research. We need more cooperation, especially with local universities and industry players. And we need to train people. We need to train talents. That's the thing. Chile, but it's also the case for the vast majority of countries out there in the world. They just don't have enough people, enough trainers, and they will not have enough people and enough trainers by 2030 to actually meet their very ambitious hydrogen targets as it stands today. So we need to develop these corporations, and that's why here education beyond industries, beyond matchmaking from a purely business point of view. That's why education and sharing those messages bluntly, to me, it seems like something that is absolutely needed.
Mikaa Blugeon-Mered, thank you.
Thank you so much.